Welcome to The Explainer. We're going to talk about a procedure today that's literally ancient. We're talking Egyptian pharaohs ancient, but it's getting a massive high-tech upgrade. We're diving into circumcision, specifically a new device that's completely changing how it's done, the circumcision stapler. So, how does it work? Is it really better? Let's get into it.
So let's just start with a really big number, 30%. According to the World Health Organization, that's roughly how many males are circumcised across the globe. Whether it's for religious, cultural, or health reasons, this is a procedure that affects millions upon millions of people, and the tech behind it is finally catching up to the 21st century.
All right, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll take a super quick look at the history here. Then, we'll put the old-school scalpel methods head-to-head with these new modern devices. We're going to put one device in particular, the ZSR stapler, under the microscope. We'll walk through what the patient experience is actually like, and, this is really important, talk about finding a certified provider. And then, we'll wrap it all up by looking at how you make an informed choice.
So to really get what's happening now, you kind of have to see where it all started. Circumcision is one of the oldest surgical procedures on the books, with a history that is just mind-bogglingly long. It's been practiced by everyone from ancient Egyptian priests to doctors in the Victorian era, all for a whole range of different reasons.
Yeah, look at this timeline. We've got evidence of it way back in 2400 BC in Egypt, mostly for priests and royalty. It spreads to other cultures, and then fast forward a couple of thousand years, and Western medicine adopts it for all sorts of reasons. But here's the crazy part. While the reasons for doing it have changed dramatically over time, the actual method, well, that's been pretty much the same for centuries. Until now.
And this is where things get really interesting. The biggest leap forward in modern circumcision is this shift away from traditional scalpels to these new, specialized medical devices. This is where all the innovation is happening, and it's what we're going to dig into next.
So what are we really talking about here? Well, the conventional way, with a scalpel, it's just slower, right? It takes maybe 15 to 30 minutes. It also means you need stitches, and there's a higher risk of bleeding. Now compare that to these device-based methods. They're way faster, they use clamps or rings instead of stitches, and they're specifically designed to keep bleeding to an absolute minimum.
And you can really see the difference in these diagrams. On one side, you have the traditional approach. It's a manual cut, it requires a really steady hand, and then you have to stitch everything back up. On the other side, you have something like the smart clamp, a device that's built from the ground up to protect the glands and do the job with mechanical precision. The goal there is a much more consistent, reliable result.
And the data? Well, the data pretty clearly backs this up. Medical journals show that these new devices are way faster and cut down on bleeding risk. Look at this. A traditional dorsal slit could take up to half an hour. A stapler-like device, it can be done in as little as 2.5 minutes. That is a massive, massive difference.
So this brings us to one of the newest, most talked about innovations in this space, the disposable circumcision stapler, which you'll often hear called by its brand name, ZSR. The marketing pitch is pretty bold. Painless, bloodless, and stitchless. So, does it actually live up to the hype? Let's find out.
The real genius of the ZSR device is how it combines two steps into one single action. There's a circular blade that makes the cut, and at the exact same time, a ring of tiny staples closes the wound. It's all over in a second. This completely gets rid of the need for manual stitching, which is just a huge advantage.
And here's a really clever part of the design that providers talk about, this silicone ring. Now, this isn't just part of the tool, it actually stays behind after the procedure. It's designed to do a few things. It applies even pressure to control any bleeding, it acts like a little shield to protect the wound while it heals, and then it just falls off on its own as the staples come out. It's a major step forward for both the procedure and the recovery. Okay, let's talk about the big question, the one anyone considering any procedure wants to know. What is recovery actually like? So let's walk through the patient journey with this stapler method, especially for an adult. This speedy recovery is probably one of the biggest selling points. We're talking about a daycare procedure, so you can literally go home within an hour. Most people can get back to work in just a day or two. And because the staples and that silicone ring are designed to fall off by themselves, you often don't even need a physical follow-up appointment. It's a whole different world from traditional surgery. But, and this is a really important but, whenever a new technology like this comes along, the market reacts fast. And unfortunately, that doesn't always mean the quality is consistent, so it's absolutely crucial for patients to know the difference between providers and the equipment they're using.
This isn't us saying this. This is a direct warning from a certified surgical center in Mumbai. They're literally telling people to watch out for duplicate products. You can even see the Z is styled differently on the knockoff.
It just goes to show you how important it is to verify what's being used.
So the key takeaway here is pretty simple. Not all staplers are created equal. These clinics warn that the counterfeit devices might use bigger pins that can mess with healing, and they often don't have that super important silicone ring. All of this can lead to a higher risk of complications and, frankly, a worse cosmetic result.
So where does that leave us? With all this information, how do you actually make a choice? At the end of the day, the decision to have a circumcision and to choose a particular method is a deeply personal one. It's all about balancing the medical facts with your own personal situation and values. And even major medical bodies like the American Academy of Pediatrics basically say the same thing. They've stated that while the health benefits are there, the final decision really rests with the individual or the family. It's about taking all the evidence and weighing it against your own beliefs, whether they're cultural, ethical, or religious.
And that kind of brings us to our final question for today. The story of circumcision, from this ancient ritual to a high-tech, single-use device, is really a story about how medicine itself is changing. As we keep inventing faster, less invasive, and more precise ways to do things, we're all going to face this same kind of choice again and again. When do we embrace the new, and when do we stick with the tried and true?